YouTube, what's going on? It's your boy APFC back again. Hope you guys had a wonderful day, or wherever you are in the world, about to have a fantastic day. I am here to do a preview for the Sheffield United Arsenal fixture at the Emirates Stadium. Massive, massive game for us, particularly because we couldn't get that win at Crystal Palace. It puts more pressure on us tomorrow to get the job done against probably the biggest overachievers in the Premier League this season. Sheffield United, can you believe it? They were my tip to get relegated, are sitting at 6th place, 22 to 23 games in this season. Absolutely remarkable what Chris Wilder has done. It's been fantastic for him. When they came up to the Premier League all those years ago, they went straight back down. They never really looked like staying up. Chris Wilder has developed such a strong mentality for this squad, and the way that they've consistently been playing, particularly against some of the bigger sides this year. Do you remember their game against Liverpool away where they were fantastic and probably should have got more out of the game? They have been phenomenal. So, although we are at home, generally a place where we have better form in comparison to our away form, it's not going to be an easy game. Back to what I was saying about home form, though, if you would generally be thinking that we have very good home form. However, not this season. We are 11th in the home form table in the Premier League this season. So it ain't going to be easy for us. I mean, the last time we played them was a 1-0 loss to Sheffield at Bramall Lane, where Mousset scored a goal. I think it may have been at the end of the first half or early second half. We were very ordinary that day. We were very flat. We were moving the ball around very slowly, I remember. It was the same old backwards, sideways football that we were getting used to towards the end of the Emery era. And yeah, we weren't very good value for it. They were pretty much in control of the whole game. Sheffield, let's be real, although the score was close. And yeah, that was sort of the beginning of the end for me with regards to Unai Emery. With form, we have lost 3 out of the last 4 home games, which, two of them I think were against Man City, Chelsea, and God, I can't even remember the other one right now. But yeah, our home record hasn't been good. As I said, 11th in the home form table this season. Sheffield have the 6th best away form this season, which, if in comparison to some of the teams in the Premier League, 6th in their first season up in the Prem is fantastic. A lot of teams that come up from the Championship rely purely on their home form to stay up, and over years in the Premier League with experience, their away form tends to improve. Sheffield United, though, have pretty much start as they meant to go on, and they have the 6th best away form in the Premier League this season, setting up to be a fantastic game. The last time we played them at the Emirates, it was a 3-0 win, and that was in 2006. Thierry Henry scoring 1, Gallas scoring 1, and an own goal as well, giving us the 3-0 victory that day. I think it was in September. Those were the days, having Henry there and whatnot. But here's hoping that Arteta is looking to bring that back in the not so distant future. Sheffield United. So to give you a bit of a rundown on what threats they can possess. First of all, they've been very well renowned for playing a 3-5-2 formation with 2 very high pressing strikers, which is usually McBurney as one of them or Mousset as the other. I think Robertson was another one that they often play up front as well. Sheffield, generally speaking, don't often change their lineup. They generally keep the same lineup every game, but it's usually the forward line that they can mix up. So I do have the lineup here. Sorry, it's McGoldrick that plays often with McBurney up top. Midfielders Norwood and Stevens and Fleck have been, very, very strong, particularly against these bigger sides. They've really offered a lot more of a threat, where I think they're going to cause problems for us. So, first of all, they're very well known for their overlapping centre backs, which is a very, very unusual tactic you would see across world football, not just the Premier League. but the way that Sheffield have been able to pull it off has been nothing short of exceptional, with Baldock, O'Connell being two of some of the centre backs. Let me get another one here. I was just looking at the tactics before. Yeah, so those generally have been very good this season. So, yeah, they offer a lot with their overlapping centre backs, creating overloads in wide areas. Now, out wide, I think, is going to be their biggest threat because they also like to get their wing backs involved with Stevens and Baldock, particularly the main wing backs. They push very high up. They're very good at putting the long ball into the middle where, McBurney can sort of play as a bit of a target man. And yeah, I mean, really, what they've done has been nothing short of exceptional. And this overlapping centre backs tactic that they've been using has changed the Premier League in some ways because it's not something I can remember seeing, and no doubt there'll be other managers that will be inspired by Chris Wilder's approach and will be looking to do that in the future. So, yeah, I mean, on paper, Sheffield, you look at it and you never think they have a very strong side. Personally, I didn't know many of their players when they came up, but some of the results that they've gotten this season shows that they deserve to be at sixth, and they have tested some of the biggest teams in world football. They have been very good against Liverpool. They put in a good performance against Man United. They beat us. Won't be an easy game for us at home. Let's talk about Arsenal. So I've basically got 3 to 4 things that I think that are key factors in this game. One being concentration. Concentration, aside from the Aubameyang red card, concentration is the main reason we did not get the result against Palace. 20 to 30 minutes of the game all up, I think we were playing well. The other 60 minutes, we looked lost, we looked tired, we looked completely out of focus. Everyone can see the philosophy that Arteta is putting in. There's no doubt about that. But when you see it at its peak, you only tend to see it for about a quarter of the game at the moment. The first 15 minutes were fantastic against Crystal Palace. And I thought we were pretty good after Palace equalised. We actually had a good 10 to 15 minutes where we started to play good football again, look way more threatening on the counter, and moving the ball around generally quicker and just holding more possession, because we had 70% of possession up until about the 40th minute against Palace, and then Palace after that tended to get right back into the game, ultimately equalising, and we all know the result at the end of the day. Could not get that victory, 1-1 draw. Concentration, as I said, being one of the main things that we are lacking. Arteta mentioned in I think it was the post-match press conference, that we lacked focus in a lot of aspects of the game, and that is exactly my thoughts as well. He's got it spot on. When we're playing his system, we look by far the better team. If you really think about our away form in the last 2 to 3 seasons, when can you remember us really dominating a team away from home? I was saying to the people I was watching with during the Crystal Palace game, one of the people actually said to me, this is the Arsenal of old in respects to being on the front foot, looking to hold possession and assert their dominance early in the game. We were finally doing that against Palace, but we just couldn't pull through for the whole game. And I think a lot of it is a mentality thing. Yes, David Luiz and Socrates did admit that the fitness levels aren't good enough. Very true. I don't think we had a good enough preseason in regards to fitness. Clearly, because they're saying it now, I think that game was in December, January sort of period. But we are showing signs of improvement, and mentality-wise, you can see that we're able to sort of concentrate for a period of the game, but we just can't pull through. And let's be real, we didn't do that under Emery. We couldn't concentrate very well. We would switch off so many times, particularly at the back. We weren't controlling games at all. Even at home, we were getting lucky in a lot of home performances with set pieces and, Aubameyang magic to pull us through. But, signs are definitely pointing the right direction. I am thinking that this is improving, and I think we will really see an improved performance in regarding to concentration. Massive game for Alex Lacazette. 5 goals in 15 games in the Premier League this season. very average return, although I think his performances have been very solid. He just hasn't been able to find that bit of confidence in front of goal. There's been a few chances that he's had this season that he should have put away. There was a good chance against Palace that he sort of scuffed, which ultimately the goalkeeper Guaita saved. There was a big chance, I think, at home against, who was it? No, it wasn't at home. It was the Bournemouth game, Arteta's first game. He had a big opportunity to score. I think it was in the second half. Just sort of scuffed it. If you can remember the Lacazette of old at Arsenal, when he was coming in and burying those chances, everyone was saying how clinical he was. At Lyon, he was well known to be, that sort of poacher in the box, dynamo, where he was basically putting goals away for fun. We have seen a new and improved Lacazette in return in terms of work rate, in terms of linking up with the wingers, in terms of having his body back to goal, and for me, even attitude. He was getting subbed a lot more early on in his Arsenal career, and although Emery was still subbing him towards the end of his era, it probably was rather unjustified based on the work rate and what he offers our team in regards to everything else but scoring goals. But with Aubameyang being out for 3 games, although Martinelli has threat, Pepe has threat, Lacazette, ultimately it falls on his shoulders to get us the goal, not just because he's a striker, because he's probably our most experienced attacking player. So he needs to step up, and it's crunch time for him, for his career, for us. He started off very well. He had a decent first season without being too brilliant. His second season was excellent. Last year he was very, very good. He was probably one of our top 2 to top 3 players of last season. This year, Arsenal fans can appreciate what he's done in regards to off the ball and everything else apart from scoring goals, but if Lacazette by now would be on 10 Premier League goals, 12 Premier League goals, perhaps would be even higher up the table. It's hard to say. It is hard to say because Aubameyang tends to get most of the chances. However, Lacazette sometimes is just not in those positions. It's a massive game for him. And for me, also, it's a big game in respect to our wing-backs because, as I said to you before, Sheffield are very strong out wide. The overlapping centre-backs puts more pressure out wide, which means not just our wing-backs, really. It really means our wide midfielders. And regarding our wide midfielders, I'm not too worried in regards to work rate. A lot of people think that Pepe doesn't work too hard. For me, that's a myth. He's always working hard and tracking back. Pepe, I don't have too much of a problem with, although he does lack concentration at times, particularly when he's tired defensively. And Martinelli's work rate we can't question. So I'm not too worried about that. It's more so on the left-hand side, considering Kolasinac is apparently not going to be fit for the game. He's picked up an injury. So sounds like Saka's going to be playing left back and Maitland-Niles is going to be playing right back. Technically, neither of them are wing backs. Maitland-Niles had no problem against Zaha. I don't think he'll have any problem against Sheffield. However, I'm thinking that Sheffield are going to offer way more threat out wide than Crystal Palace have done, particularly because, as I said, those overlapping centre-backs are putting more pressure out wide, and basically with their wing-backs and how they like to cross the ball, it's going to be a big game for them, because if we're able to stop that supply out wide, I think we will comfortably win this game. I think that is where they will be threatening us the most. And out wide under Emery, we really struggled defensively. I'm not so worried about it now, but I am a little bit concerned on Saka's experience. He has stepped up at left back at times this season, but he is young. You can't really expect those 7 out of 10 performances from such a young player such as Saka, who ultimately is playing out of position. Maitland-Niles, another big game for him. His reputation is growing. There's been a lot of talks about, is he our best right back? I believe he is, but this is another big test for him. A lot more of a physical test, particularly of how physical Sheffield are and how many sort of big size players that they have. So yeah, massive test for our wingers and our wing backs, because they have been performing lately, particularly Maitland-Niles. Kolasinac was performing, although he is injured, but we really need to keep this consistency up. Because we didn't get that result against Palace, it really is a must-win game for us. So I think if we win the out-wide battle, we will win this game comfortably enough. Another thing that we really need to really fix up is the midfield, because I'm not 100% on Torreira. Apparently, he's not going to be fit, which is a problem because if Torreira is not fit, our midfield is significantly weakened. Xhaka has been performing a lot better, but I find there's a bit of an imbalance between Xhaka and Guendouzi, which it is, let's be real, it is probably likely to be those two in the centre mids. As I've said before, Guendouzi is not a better defensive midfielder than Torreira. Guendouzi is not a better anchor player than Xhaka. He is sort of a bit of a jack of all trades, master of none, but he's still a very good player, and he's got probably the best attitude out of a lot of our players, particularly when the going was getting tough under the Emery era. But yeah, I am worried because although I'm not too concerned about our pressing up front, which has drastically improved, particularly with Lacazette leading the line and his tenacity off the ball, I am concerned about the midfield, particularly because A, Guendouzi gets caught out of position a lot of times, and B, Ozil does not offer a lot of defensive work. I have noticed with Ozil, he likes to sort of almost, I would say, deceive many fans, and a lot of fans won't like me saying this, but what I find with Ozil is that he sort of half-heartedly press and makes it look like he's doing more defensive work than he actually is. He'll sprint to sort of close off the ball playing option, but he won't actually go in for the tackle and he won't really press. Without Torreira there, I think our midfield defensively is a lot weaker, and that's ultimately where we lost the game in the second half, was in the centre of the park, particularly in the first 10 to 15 minutes of the second half. So, he is hoping Guendouzi can step up because he has many times this season, particularly when our backs are against the wall. I just really need him, we need him to be very focused from the get-go, because especially with those overlapping centre backs going past the centre mids are going to have to be proper switched on, looking out for those late runs from their centre backs. So, it is a big game for them, and it's also a massive game for Gabriel Martinelli. I have done a video on him, so please check that out. I did a video on how he could step up with Aubameyang being out for 3 games. Martinelli can really establish himself in this Arsenal starting lineup and ultimately perhaps push Lacazette out if he performs well in these 2 to 3 games, bags a couple of goals and an assist. I have no doubt Martinelli is capable of doing that, but it's just a matter of, if the occasion doesn't overroar him and how consistent he is, because he's still a very young player. I am confident he will perform over these next 3 games, and with his tenacity and his crossing abilities and the ability he has to get in those goal scoring positions, I'm really confident he'll be able to step up for us. So he's hoping, because Aubameyang has scored 48% of our Premier League goals this season, so he's hoping players such as Pepe, Lacazette, and Martinelli will step up. Now, I'm going to go through a predicted starting lineup, and these days, under Arteta, it seems to be relatively the same. I'm predicting Leno in goal, who wasn't really tested in the last game. He's been a mainstay and been very good for us this season. His distribution was a lot better last game as well. Sometimes it's a little bit shaky. I think he'll definitely be starting. With Kolasinac being injured, it's looking like Bukayo Saka is going to be our left back. Once again, he has filled in many times, some very well, some not so well. It's going to be a difficult game for him, particularly of the intensity that Sheffield like to press, particularly the intensity physically that Sheffield really like to get involved. But I have noticed that Saka is up for a battle, and I am confident that he's in the right frame of mind. He will have a good performance, but it's really going to be a tough game for him. Socrates and David Luiz, the standard centre-back pairing that we like to go with at the moment. We don't really have any other centre-backs, with Chambers being out and Holding sort of returning to full fitness. Big game for them, particularly because they like to play the long ball and look for the target men. They're going to have to be on the ball. I actually do rate Socrates' ability in the air, and when David Luiz is focused, he's proven to be a very good centre-back this season. Can't believe I'm saying that now, particularly of how poorly I rated him at the beginning of the year, but under Arteta, he's been a lot more effective. I would like to see some of the long balls, particularly because Sheffield United like to push forward with their centre backs and their wing backs. So on the counter, David Luiz will be very, very key if he's able to get those long balls as good as they were against Crystal Palace. Maitland-Niles again at right back, which is a pretty standard for me. Yes, Bellerin is returning, but his performance against Crystal Palace was exceptional. Probably man of the match. That's no doubt the standard right back for me right now. Centre midfielders, defensive midfielders. I'm going to go with Lucas Torreira at DM, although I'm not entirely certain that he is going to be fit. I've read different reports saying that it's going to be touch and go whether he will actually be fit for this game. I'm just having a look now to see if there's any new news on him, because if it's not going to be Torreira, it's going to be Matteo Guendouzi. As I said to you before, he's been indifferent this season. He struggles when he has that real responsibility of being a defensive midfield. Excuse me. But again, time will tell, and he has really stepped up for us at times this season. And Granit Xhaka, who I think's been very good over the last 4 to 5 games under the Arteta era. He was very good in the first half against Crystal Palace. I think he sort of slacked off in the second. I think a lot of that is down to fitness. Concentration has never been a strong point in Xhaka's game, but he'll really have to step up, particularly because Torreira isn't there. I think there'll be a lot more defensive work for Xhaka to have to do, which I will say he has done since Arteta has come in as manager. But he really needs to continue performing the way he is because, yeah, he's not captain anymore, and I very much disagreed with what he did against Crystal Palace at home this season where he threw his armband. He does have leadership qualities. I can see that. He is a bit of a leader on the field. He needs to step up and prove his worth, particularly because I've noticed with away games, Xhaka can completely go missing. This is a game where we can't afford for him to go missing. And I'm just pulling up an article now. And yes, Arteta has said you can't rule Lucas Torreira out. He trained yesterday, but still not 100%. So he may start. So if he is fit, it will be Torreira and Xhaka in the midfield. Guendouzi will probably drop to the bench. Talking about players that need to step up. Mesut Ozil. Now, Mesut Ozil, I thought was very poor in the Crystal Palace game. Sorry about me just moving before I thought I saw a bug. But yeah, for me, he was very quiet actually against Crystal Palace. He just wasn't able to get into the game in the second half, and yeah, he did drop back a lot more in terms of the first half and linking up with the midfields with Xhaka. He was very good at dropping back and sort of creating space for the wingers to run into. But generally speaking, I don't think he has really offered a lot this season, and particularly that game. You know, he has improved a lot in some respects in regards to his work rate, but work rate should be the minimum. And Chris Wilder said that himself about his Sheffield team. So what's different with this Arsenal team? Need a big game from Ozil. We're at home, but away from form's never been a strong point. At home in these sort of games, he tends to really perform against those sort of smaller sides where he has a bit more space to do what he wants. If Sheffield aren't on the ball regarding their pressing, expect a big role from him. Out wide, I'm going to have Pepe and Martinelli. Pepe, I thought, was the poorest player on the field against Crystal Palace. He never got in the game. He didn't really complete many of his dribbles very well. And his final product in regards to crossing was not very good, and he gave the ball away many times. Need a big game from him. Need a big game also from Gabriel Martinelli. As I said before, he offers a lot going down out wide. He gets himself in goal-scoring positions. He's very intelligent with his crossing and the timing of his runs. So he is hoping that such a young player can step up in the absence of Aubameyang. Speaking of the absence of Aubameyang, another player that needs to step up is Alex Lacazette. Again, 5 goals in 15 Premier League games. Big game for you, mate. We really need you here. So, yeah, I mean, that's pretty much my preview for the game. Score prediction, I'm going with a 2-1. I think Sheffield will score off a set piece or so. I did say that last game. I think a 2-0 or a 2-1 is fair. If we nullify the threat out wide, I think we'll win the game. I think if we don't really let the wing-backs get in the game and we're not too phased by the pressing sort of fullbacks and we're able to manage the long ball when the overlapping centre-backs are in the box, I think we will manage this game for comfortably. Yes, we've not been great at home this season, but I think what Arteta's demanding is starting to come to fruition, and I really do think we'll get the result at the end of the day. Thank you very much for watching my video, guys. Please stick a like and subscribe if you're new. Please feel free to give me some feedback regarding this video. Still quite new to this, but I do love talking about this. So any sort of topics that you may have for me, any feedback you may have for me, please let me know. Thanks so much, guys, for watching my video. APFC, look forward to hearing from you soon. Take care.